I am Dyllan McGee, founder and executive producer of Makers, and welcome to Makers at Home. Today we have Austin Channing Brown. Uh, Austin is a best-selling author, executive producer of an amazing web series. She is a speaker. I mean, she is one of today's leading brains and speakers around racial justice. So let's get her on. Connect.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so glad to join y'all today.
I am so happy you're here, Austin Channing Brown.
I'm with Makers. I made it, Mom. I made
Oh
it.
my gosh. Yeah. You mean, says the woman who's like talked to pretty much every amazing person on the planet, but you're nice to make us feel special today. That's your special sauce. So we're feeling the love. How are you?
I'm all right. It's a 2020 is it's a little strange. It's a little heavy. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, it really is.
But I will say this. I feel loved and I feel supported and I feel seen. And in the middle of a pandemic, that's not a bad way to feel. So
Yeah. Okay. That gives me some hope. You know, one of the things that I want to talk about today is obviously, an overarching theme of allyship, which we at Makers, we're, and you use this word too, because is accomplices, right?
That's right.
Because it's not just about like, oh, we're friends and I support you. It's like, all right, we're in this together and I'm going to speak up and I'm going to make a difference.
Totally.
But, and this conversation about, this crazy world of, thinking that colorblind is like the right way, right? So that's another thing. So we're going to get there, right? Because why would we want to be colorblind? Let's celebrate all of our differences. But you and I, speaking of, while we are going to celebrate our differences, you and I do have something in common.
What do we have in common?
We both have gender neutral names.
Tell me how that experience has been for you.
Well, I think I was just telling our producers before, I think it's a little different, right? For me, my name is Dyllan. There are two L's. My mother thought that would make it more feminine, right? No,
Hilarious.
Everyone thinks I'm a white man,
right?
But it's been a nuisance for me. But what I read in your book, this has actually been a moment. So tell me about what it's been like for you. I won't put words in your mouth.
Yeah, no, well, at first growing up, I thought that that's all my name indicated, right? That it was not even just gender neutral, right? But that I have a boy's name.
Right. I didn't say that. I should have said it that way, right?
But
and that is a boy's name. Like everyone thinks we're a white man, right?
Right, exactly, right? But as a kid, I hadn't associated with race, right? So I just knew it was a boy's name. And was annoyed by that, right? Like, right? Like a child, right? Like, and when I discovered that people assumed that I was a white man, I was like, oh. And suddenly it like clicked. Like, oh, this is why people feel the need to comment on it. This is why people feel like I'm deceiving them. This is why, like it made sense. I was like, oh, this is why people aren't just like, oh, that's interesting. They're like, wait, what?
Well, and tell the story that you tell in your book about the librarian.
Oh my gosh. So this is how I figured it out. So we went to the library all the time as kids. And so I was very used to librarians being like, what is happening here? Because we always owed a fine, right? Like we were the family that had to pay down the fine to check out the next book. You know what I mean? And so I get to the front of the line and I'm like kind of proud of my fine, right? Ready for her to be like, what's happening here? And she's like, is this your card? And I'm like, well, I think so, but it could be my mother's, it could be my brother's, like, I'm not sure. She says, this says Austin, right? And immediately like, oh, nuisance, right? You expected me to be a boy. Got it. Okay, that's my card. And she responds, are you sure? And I was like, am I sure about my own
Name.
Do you see the stack of books I'm about to check out? Do you see the fine on my library card? How could you think that I do not know my own name? Right? Like my childish wisdom. I was just like, what is happening right now? And so I marched over to my mother and was like, Mom, why did you give me this name? Right? Just totally annoyed. What were you thinking? And she says, Austin, if you had been a boy, you would have been a junior. But we never figured out a girl's name. And so when we were just sort of like rattling names off in the hospital, we landed on Austin and we loved it immediately because we knew anyone who met you, who just like saw your name on an application, but hadn't met you yet, would assume you are a white man. And she said, we just wanted to get you to the interview. And I was like, okay.
You're like, I still don't get it.
All right. I mean, the only application I had filled out was probably for the library card, right? Like, I don't know anything about an application or an interview, you know? But it suddenly made sense. Like, oh, people aren't just expecting me to be a boy. Like, they're expecting me to be a white man. And this, friends, is what they get. You know what I mean?
Aren't they lucky?
Oh, like something did click, right? I didn't fully understand, not at that age, but something was like, oh, got it.
See, your mom is cool. I'm not saying my mom isn't cool. My mom was very cool, but she did not do it for those cool reasons. Like there wasn't that much intention behind it, Austin. Wait, so you have a 2-year-old, right? What did you name him?
I do. So I don't say his name publicly because of all the hate I receive. I would just hate for it to go to him.
Totally.
But I will say that his first name is very quote unquote American. And his middle name is a little more, shall we say, hood, cool. It's got a little swag. And so we call him by his middle name.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, and that just happened, or
yeah, it was intentional.
Okay, I love it. Well, so tell us just a little bit for those of the Makers audience who, if they don't know about you, they should and they better be. But tell us just a little bit about you.
So I tell my parents all the time that they decided what my career would be the minute they named me. Obviously, I'm going to talk about race and gender for the rest of my life. Like, that's what it's going to be.
Austin, that's actually interesting. I've never made that connection. My mother didn't have intention, but here I am talking about gender. Oh, okay. Keep going.
Just saying.
Keep going.
Just saying. It might be in the name. There's something magical happening there.
Uh-oh. I named my kids Max and Henry. What was I thinking? Okay. All right. I needed more purpose there. Is
it too late? Can we rename them?
Renaming. We're doing a rename. They have no idea what's about to happen. Okay. All right. Keep going. Tell us about you.
Yes. So I've had lots and lots of jobs. So I've had a lot of jobs in like the church, nonprofit world. I've worked with young people. I've worked with homelessness and housing. I've worked on sort of like volunteer training, operations kind of stuff. But I just really hit my stride when it came to talking about diversity and inclusion, but in ways that don't require me to wear a button-down shirt and a pencil skirt. You know, okay. I do not stand up and like hand out a quiz and go through definitions of terms.
No.
And
you mean you make it all accessible and fun and engaging? Maybe.
Yeah. Right? Maybe. I really think that the idea of race is ridiculous. Right? So culture, beautiful. But this idea that white people are innately superior and that Black people are innately inferior, like that's ridiculous.
That's fucked up.
Right?
I'd say.
And because it's so fucked up, I think it deserves to be like laughed about. So there's a lot of storytelling. There's a lot of contemporary references to pop culture. There's a lot of humor. When I give like a workshop or something, I am like this close to counting how many times I can make people laugh. I am just like this is so ridiculous. Like if we're not laughing about this, I don't know what we're doing. And the second thing that I'm really, really passionate about when I enter any space is that I center the women of color in the room as opposed to centering the white people in the room, right? Because often what happens in a diversity training is all the people of color have to like get on board. We have to get on the same page. We have to be willing to tell the same story, tell our same like pain points, show all of our scars, prove that we're human so that all the white people in the room will get it.
I mean, can I tell you something? So there is an amazing woman. I probably shouldn't say her name, but there's an amazing woman on our MAKERS board.
Yeah.
And she works for this huge company, and you know, everything happens in 2020, and she says, she's a Black woman, I should say.
Yeah.
And she says, you know what? All of a sudden, like, here I am servicing the white people in my company. Like, all my people need me. And here I am, like, approving memos. Here I am I saying the right things? Like, you know, so she's like, I needed to center the Black individuals in my company and not focus on the white people.
I think that there is a great value in like white people having like an aha moment. Like that's fantastic. But the truth is that it's people of color who are figuring out how to navigate systems that were not made for us. So if I'm going to have a training, I am going to structure it so that the Black folks in the room would want to come back if I did it a second time. Right? Like that's my definition of success. Did the people of color feel affirmed? Did people of color feel like I spoke to their needs? Did people of color understand all of my references? Do you know what I mean?
But there's also, I mean, I don't know if but you're teaching to different levels, right? So one of the problems that's happening right now with this conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion is that like the white people are here, right? so when you're having to navigate, but you're not dumbing it down.
I'm not anymore, right? So once upon a time, I would have structured, I did. Once upon a time, I structured them as like, well, here's the 101, and here's the 201, and here's the 301, right? So now people can plug themselves in at whatever level they think they belong to, right? Now, I just be like, catch up. Catch up. That's what Google is for. Like I'm gonna stand and I'm gonna say all these things. And if at some point you get confused, there will be a Q&A. So we can revisit something. Right. Way over my head, right? So write it down. But if we still don't get time to go, like I didn't pull this stuff like from there's very little that I'm doing that's original. And that's the honest to goodness truth. There's very little that I'm doing that's original. That stack of books right there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That stack of books right there.
Right.
That's why I know what I'm talking about. And you can read them too.
But Austin, but I'm still shocked. We situate ourselves within all of these companies, and it's still, how can it be so one-on-one? This is a revelation for me that like we don't have to be one-on-one. No.
It's because people of color don't get to be 101.
Right.
When we walk into those companies, we have to catch up. So whether we have seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off or not, we better laugh.
Right.
Like whether we go skiing, sailing, have a second vacation home, right? Like whether those things are a part of our life or not, we better smile and nod.
Oh my God.
Right? So if I have to catch up in my daily life, the least white people could do is catch up for my hour-long training.
Right. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. This is getting good. Okay. All right. So I want to keep at Makers Women,
Yeah.
I just want to keep showing these images, this web series and this book, because catch up, people.
Catch
You're
up.
two ways too. But in this, okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is this web
Yes.
series that is, it's just like, it is addictive viewing. And you've interviewed, heroes like, Rachel Cargill, Brene Brown, Hannah Nicole Smith. But there is one thing that I really want to read to, like when I was watching, I mean, why did I say Hannah Nicole Smith? Oh my God, Jones, sorry.
Nicole Hannah Jones.
Sorry,
Yep.
Nicole Hannah Jones. Oh my God.
It's
I've
okay.
only been
It was
once,
a lot of names.
everything. Okay. Well, part of why, by the way, well, anyway, we're going to go there next. Okay. So one of the episodes with Brene Brown.
Yes. It was so good.
I mean, okay. So, but I have to read this quote to you, because one of the things that you were talking about is this armor that Black women need to wear, right?
Yes.
And the reality is that Brene Brown is talking about being vulnerable, and that's good. And we all want to be vulnerable, and we all grow by being vulnerable. But that sometimes isn't something that Black women can do, because this armor has been protecting Black women in the workplace, in the world. So she said,
exactly right.
And so she said, well, so first of all, just react on that, and then I want to read a quote.
So I have been in love with Brene Brown since The Gifts of Imperfection came out, right? So long before Daring Greatly and, all the others that she has become really famous for. When I read The Gifts of Imperfection, I was like, is she following me around? Like, what is happening? And there was a portion in her book that was talking about playfulness and goofiness and being able to be free, and I thought, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I want to be playful. Like, I'm so serious and I want to be playful. And then immediately I thought, there is no place in my workplace where I could be playful. There's no way. I would ruin it for other Black women. I would be considered incompetent. I would be pulled into the office like white people get to be playful and still be considered competent. I don't get to do that. And ever since, I've been like, oh my God, I need to have a conversation with Brene Brown. I need to talk to her. This was years ago, right? Like years ago. But I finally got the chance to say, Brene, what do women of color do who are resonating with the desire to be vulnerable and playful and live wholeheartedly, but we're not allowed? Is your book ultimately just for white women?
And
she said, well, I hope not. Right? And the truth is, she's like, I don't want it to be. Right? But the truth is that Brene has done enough of the work to know that what I'm saying is true. Right? And that there is no shortcut. Brene doesn't have a shortcut in her back pocket for how women of color can suddenly become
but vulnerable. Here I want to read this quote.
Yes, do it.
Because this is for all my white sisters out there. Yeah. Listen to what I'm saying. Okay, here we go. The most organic ally for women of color taking off armor and showing up authentically should be white women.
It should. It should. I mean, it just makes sense. But here's the rub. Mm-hmm. White women know what it's like to be judged, to be held to a different standard, to not be paid well, to be told we're incompetent, to be judged based on how we look, right? White women know what this is like. But white women have the option of tapping into their whiteness, mm-hmm. right? And so it is always a question of which direction white women will go.
Yes.
And too often, what white women ultimately decide mm-hmm. is that they're going to be nice to women of color. But what is more important is that they indulge the power that they can access through whiteness.
Yes. Be an accomplice. It is not enough to just, it's not enough.
Mm-mm.
It's not enough to just say, I support, I'm not, and also publicly, there's a lot that happens. It's here is I find, again, white women pals out there,
Yep.
we can't be safe.
That's right.
It's
Throw it out the window.
Safety is gone. Get
Yep.
uncomfortable, take risks,
Mm-hmm.
and no, I go back to that board member who said, you know what? She was lifting up all of the white
Yep.
men and women at her
That's
company.
right. That's right.
To make them feel good about what they were doing, but they need to get uncomfortable and make mistakes and write a memo that has a flaw in it.
So let me give you two examples.
Okay,
so
great.
Example number one is, like, these are going to be pre-pandemic examples, assuming one day we will not be in a pandemic anymore.
Okay.
So pre-pandemic examples. One, so let's put ourselves in the board meeting, right?
Okay.
And the Black woman stands up. Her name is Austin. She stands up and she starts giving her presentation, right? And 5 minutes into her presentation, all the white men in the room are like, now, wait a minute, but didn't you just say, but our company can't, but have you thought about, right? And the two white women in the room are going, can I get you some water? Right? Like, they're being very nice. They are not participating in what is happening, right? But all they're being is nice, right? And then they come up afterwards and say, that was just really awful. I just want you to know that I see you. And then get mad when I'm like, that is not helpful to me. Right? Like, that has changed nothing.
Nothing.
Right? What I want is a co-conspirator, right? What I want is an accomplice who will stop the meeting and say, hey, listen, guys, I am realizing that we have interrupted Austin 3 times in like less than 10 minutes. And we didn't do that to anybody else. So could we all take a step back and let Austin finish her thought, and then we can jump in with any questions we have. Capiche? Right? Like, yes, that is helpful, but it's also brave, right? That isn't about being nice. That is about being brave. And that is what Black women need. The truth is, Dyllan, we have friends.
Yes, right.
We are not like lonely individuals. like I have girlfriends who I am absolutely going to call, and they are going to say, girl, I see you. And I'll be like, thank you, honey. Right? That ain't what I need from the white women in the room. Right? That's not, I don't need a coffee date. I don't need a bottle of water. I don't need, do you know what I'm saying? I don't need a fruitcake. Like, I don't need it. I don't need it. What I need is for you to be able to look around and see injustice on your own without me having to point it out, without me having to teach you. I need you to look around and ask yourself, are the women of color being treated as equally as the white men?
Can I add a nuance?
Yes.
Okay. There's your example. Now here is, listen, there's no one right way, right? But
no, there's a million
what I'm
ways
also
to participate.
starting to see now,
yes.
and I don't know if you're experiencing this, in even these Zoom environments, is everyone's like, oh, I'm going to be an accomplice. I'm going to speak up. But the way that white women are speaking up is oh my God, Austin, that was so brilliant what you just said. Oh my God, like overcompensation. Is that crazy of me to say that? Like, because that doesn't help either. That's almost insulting. Like, in many ways, like, oh my God, like, Austin, you wouldn't have a brilliant thing, but I'm going to make it extra. I don't know. Right?
So there's strategy, right? Okay. And this is something that actually Barack Obama's team used to do. So when the women were in the same meeting, they would amen one another, right? So one woman would say, I think we should have medical care for all, right? And another woman would be like, I think that's a brilliant idea. Can you expand more on that? Right? And then the next one would be like, oh, and you know what? I think we should push this one step farther. I think, right? Strategy around thinking, around competency, around building on one another, right? That is helpful.
Right.
I once had an advocate who advocated so hard on my behalf that it ended up looking to my supervisor like I was even less competent because I needed his advocacy. Right? So it's a really fine line. It's a fine line. And you have to be self-aware, and you have to check in, and you have to think about, you have to be honest about what the dynamics, the unjust dynamics are where you live, where you work, where you volunteer. Let me give you another example.
Okay.
So I'm up giving a speech. Someone asks me, so when you're at work, like, do you want to be like known as the Black girl or like called a Black girl? Like, does that, like, is there any rub in that for you? And I'm like, no, right? Mm-mm. But then I love you, woman, right? Then a Black woman stands up and she says, and she starts to contradict everything I just said. And I'm like, I revert to white supremacy, right? I'm like, you are ripping apart everything I just said. Like, we are supposed to be on the same page. Right? I'm like, you and I are like one of 3 Black women in this room. What is happening right now? Right? Yeah. It's all falling apart. and then I pause, I step back, I listen to what she is saying. And here's the aha moment I have as she's speaking. Where I worked, it was so heavy with whiteness, but so interested in diversity that I needed to push against the culture with my Blackness, right? I needed to say, this is not the only way to present. This is not the only way to speak. This is not the only way to tell a story. This is, right? I needed that. And so being like the Black woman was not a problem for me.
Yeah.
For her, in a very corporate setting, she was only known as the Black woman. So she was never the intelligent one. She was never the creative one. She was never the one you wanted to call for advice. She was, right? All she was the Black coworker. And so for her, what her allies, what her co-conspirators needed was not to talk about her braids, right? And emphasize her Blackness. What she needed was to be told that her ideas are brilliant.
Right.
Right. And that she's deserving of the promotion. And that, right. And so our allies have to be critical of the systems in which they participate. And that's a hard thing to do, especially when you love where you work, because it's been good to you.
Right. Oh, but it's so important. And on top of that, Austin, it's nuanced, right? There's no
one size fits all.
There's no one size fits all. There's no checklist. I love that story, which you can't give a checklist of how to do this.
Can't do it.
But I think the way to get to it authentically is also just instead of looking at what do I do and how do I act and what, it's just learn, right? Understand what it means, what it means to be a Black woman. Again, go back to your stack of books, go back to, then it will come naturally.
Exactly.
And when you understand that system, like that there is a system, and you may not have been aware of it, and this company may have been good to you, but there is a system that exists that you may not have known about, but now look at that system.
Exactly. And that is why anti-racist educators are always like, read, learn, like take in this information. It's not because we don't want to teach you, right? It's because there's so much information to catch up on, and that information is transformative.
Right.
that information is transformative. It will transform you. It will transform your worldview. And you will begin to look at your family dynamics differently. You'll begin to work at your work dynamics differently. You will pay attention in ways that you haven't had to pay attention to before because the system worked for you.
Yes. Can you believe we're out of time?
No!
Can you believe that?
So fast.
I know. And so good. Okay.
Shoot. All right.
Well, but the good thing is that people can get more, like, right? Like this is, someone people kept saying, listen, right? Listen, read, learn, listen. Oh my gosh. And listen to your voice reading this too. The audiobook is so good. But, so we have to end on, we have a big, at Makers Women, we have a documentary coming out called Not Done.
Yeah.
It's on PBS, and it's coming out the week before the election.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And so, one of the things that we're doing is showing over the women's movement, even in the past 5 years, from the past election to today.
Sure.
Look at how little while so much has happened and things have gone to the mainstream, we are not done.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, what your parting not done voting, that bucket last bit of advice might be to all of us.
Yeah.
That's a big question.
I think a lot of us are reeling from, particularly those of us who are liberal, and I'm assuming many Makers women are, right? I'm just gonna make an assumption there.
Yeah.
Reeling from a presidency that looked like Barack Obama's to a presidency that looked like Donald Trump's, right? And as a result of that, like, what is happening right now, there are lots of different things that we all want. Some of us really wanted to return to the Barack Obama days, right? Some of us really want some Elizabeth Warren in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us really want like more spirituality or more grounding, more rootedness, more something, right? But we only get to pick one candidate. Right?
You're the best. You are the best.
We can have a lot of grief about that.
Yeah.
But we got a candidate, y'all.
It's just the facts, right?
Right. And so I think my parting words would be to recognize that even with the next candidacy, we're not done. Right? We're not done. We're all going to vote, and then we will still have work to do. And so if becoming more like Barack Obama's presidency is what you're hopeful for, we're going to still have to work for that. And if what you wanted was Elizabeth Warren and more progressiveness, then we're going to have to work for that. And right, but that even after the election, our work is not done. And so, yes, we can grieve what we wanted or the candidate who we wish we had. But at the end of the day, we have to acknowledge where we are, and we have to recognize that the election isn't the end. The election is another beginning. And I hope that that is helpful for those who are grieving, and rightfully so.
Another beginning. What a nice way to end this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, if you don't, I don't know if you can feel this through the screen, but my heart is like leaping out. I love you so much.
I love Makers so much. And so I'm so glad that I got to hang out with you.
Well, this is just the beginning. I know you said you have a lot of friends, but you're going to have to like carve out one more little spot.
I need to make room.
Nudge
Should we have
myself
a
in there.
date?
Maybe. All right. Austin Channing Brown, sending you love and thank you for being with us today. You're just such a delight.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.